The one where Ross hugs Rachel is the second episode of the sixth season of Friends. This is directed by Gail Mancuso, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And it's a pretty decent episode, definitely not one of my favourites, but we have several moments that are helping the narrative to move forward. So I'll go through those two main parts of the narrative in turn, but first of all, we do have a really strong start. Basically picks up where the last episode left off. And Ross has told Phoebe that he didn't get the annulment. So Rachel and Ross are going to see a movie. They go in a taxi. Well, Rachel gets in the taxi. Phoebe keeps sending it back and forth. Pretty good way to start things off. And we'll stick with the annulment part. Then I will talk about Monica and Chandler because there's definitely an interesting development there. And Phoebe ends up asking a bunch of women in Central Park if they'd date somebody who had been divorced as many times as Ross had. And I think that was probably awkward thing for Ross to have to witness. But I think we had some really good opinions there. People were saying that it wouldn't really bother them. But one person did point out that he's obviously still in love with his Rachel girl. And Ross is not really accepting this. But I feel like it's also one of the first times since he got married to Emily that Ross has been in a position where he can question his own feelings about Rachel, because up until this point, yes, we're very aware that Rachel is still in love with Ross, but we've never really had that reciprocated, obviously because Ross has been so caught up in the problems with Emily that he's probably not really had a chance to assess his own feelings. So I think that was pretty interesting. We'll come back to that in a little bit towards the end. Ross then goes to see his divorce attorney, and we have some brilliant dialogue between the two of them, which I thought was very, very funny. And he tells him that, obviously, Rachel needs to be there to get the annulment. And Ross panics, but honestly, I feel like this would have been a really easy solution. All he needed to do was tell Rachel that he did file the paperwork for the annulment, but it turns out the paperwork wasn't complete, she needs to be there. An admin error. He could have very easily told more lies to get out of that situation. So I don't think it's really as big of a deal as Ross is making it out to be. And he's going to tell her, and he ends up comforting her. And we'll talk about why Rachel is upset in a moment. And he hugs her, as the title of the episode suggests. And I think in that moment, Ross realised that the women at Central Park were correct. He does still have feelings for Rachel. What will come of that? Well, we'll talk about that when we get there. The other part of the episode focuses, as I said, on Monica and Chandler. And they're telling everybody that they're moving in together. Initially, Rachel thinks they're moving in, or he's moving in with Monica and Rachel. But Monica explains that he's moving in, Rachel needs to move out. But she can take as long as she needs to move out, which was absolutely the right thing to say. And Monica gets kind of irritated because Rachel doesn't seem upset. And it does seem strange that she's upset that her best friend isn't upset, but she's showing no emotions, whereas Joey clearly is showing a lot of emotions, and he's going to really miss Chandler, which I thought was really sweet and really lovely to include. And Monica really showed some really great characteristics when Rachel finally told her the reason she's not really upset is because she just doesn't think it's going to happen. For example, they were going to get married in Vegas and they didn't. She thinks this is very much along the same lines. And Monica very easily could have flown off the handle there and got really annoyed that Rachel didn't think they were serious in their relationship. But she didn't. And she just talked to her calmly and told her that this was going to happen, which I was kind of surprised by. Well, I say that I've seen this episode many times, but I feel like that comes as a surprise. And then Rachel realises she's being serious, and she does end up crying because it's the end of an era. And that is why ultimately Ross ends up comforting her, because she's upset about that. So everything there tied together really nicely. We then end with Phoebe and Joey discussing the future in a very interesting way in Central Park. It's a good episode. As I said, it's probably never going to be an all-time favourite, but it definitely lays the groundwork for some interesting episodes to come. Obviously, big changes. Chandler moving in with Monica. Where's Rachel going to go? And it seems like an obvious solution. I know where Rachel goes, but maybe it isn't obvious. I don't know. Either way, the one where Ross hugs Rachel is a really good episode. Obviously, introducing or reintroducing Ross's feelings for Rachel as well is quite fascinating. So, lots of exciting things to come. And this episode is not too bad at all.